Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Midwest Whitetail After Hours Podcast, presented to you by Hoyt Archery. Today is Monday, November 22nd, 2021. And
Good job.
they're all starting to blend together. I think the rut is over. Outside of that, it's been super cold. Tonight, I'm joined by Owen, Jared, Max, Grant, and Mike Reed. And what's up, guys? Who's got the best story?
Probably not me. I'm like Jared's comment last week. I'm just here so I don't get fined. I got a good laugh out of that. That was good, Jared.
It's just speaking the truth, Owen.
I think the rut's over, except for when I'm not in the tree. Then it's just full bore ruts on, and then when I get back in, it's over again.
I have to say, I saw more rutting activity in the in the second half of November than I did from October 15th through November 15th. Yesterday morning was the best chasing and buck activity that I've seen all year. I just wasn't hunting.
10 o'clock on the cameras. All the bucks were on their feet at 10 o'clock for some reason in that hour.
Yeah. Both days, Saturday here, at least here in Wisconsin, Saturday and Sunday were like that. It was a late movement, and even I would say 10 through 1:30.
Yeah,
ours have been the same too.
Three days in a row on the farm that Grant killed on. There's been a new mature shooter 3 days in a row, different deer between 11:30 and 1:30.
Did you hunt there today?
No, I still didn't have the wind. I can get back in tomorrow if I want to.
We're waiting for something bigger, Jared.
He says in no way, shape, or form can he hunt that farm on a west wind. So he's just been patiently waiting for a non-westerly
You
wind.
seem to not believe that. I mean, I'll let you go there and get blown.
If I had a new shooter showing up every single day, I'd find a way to hunt with the west wind.
You can. 3 in a row, and then watch tomorrow.
Get out the gill.
Why don't you just set up downwind?
What?
Easier said than done, huh, Max?
Give them my wind. You can't. They come from. I can't do it. I can't get. It's pointless. You might as well stay home, or you might as well just get your own trumpet out and blow it at yourself.
You said they're only there on west winds, though, right?
I don't know. We'll see. I've had some other wind moving, but I don't know if it's the weather. I couldn't tell you what happened, but the last 3 days, midday is like, holy moly.
So what's going on? Tell us about it.
Oh, well, I haven't been in the
We love
tree
your pain.
midday. Yeah, I haven't been in the tree midday to tell you. My hunts have been terrible.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I
We're always
laugh because
spreading
I feel your
joy.
pain.
I mean, I'm staying after them for sure. I only saw one deer this morning, and I sat till almost 11 o'clock. One 2-year-old at like 30 minutes after light. It was rough. It's rough sitting logging these hours. I'm just trying not to give up on it, but logging these hours for slow sits, man, it'll nearly kill you when it's like this.
Tonight was pretty rough too, really. And we saw
Maybe a
a
half
decent amount
dozen.
of deer, but it was definitely nothing mature.
You guys aren't getting a little pickup in activity now that we're getting past the 20th. Not seeing any more, really?
No,
The cameras are picking up, I feel like, a little bit.
that midday flurry of these kind of cruisers, it's not just, we get a couple little ones cruising here and there, but I don't know. I think that some of the does may still be in hiding. We sat kind of a big destination, like our best farm as far as if you want to hunt food tonight is where we sat. And when we could see a lot, we got some beans, some corn, we got it all right there. And it was pretty slow.
Max and I were talking a little bit today. In your all's experience, when do you see doe fawns come into heat? Are we at that period of time, or do they come in when all the other does come in?
When they hit 60 pounds, guys, that's when they come into estrus.
60 pounds?
Yep. So whenever that is, if they're in good shape, I mean, they could come in now, but generally it's about a month later, I would say, for the most part. I mean, there's been some, clear into February and way late into the year, but that's the trigger that I've always read about. When they hit 60 pounds, that's what,
Really?
yep.
I knew it was always a little bit later, but I didn't know exactly when that time period was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll
I'd never heard the weight thing, but I mean, I feel like it's always like about a month later. That's about right. Mid to late December is when I've always seen that.
I think that's pretty standard everywhere, isn't it? I mean, whether you're north or east, I mean, let's forget about the south, but I mean, I don't mean forget about the south as a whole.
You're garbage.
Whoa,
Hunting's terrible.
We just lost a bunch of listeners, Jason.
great. I'm just saying where geographically where they fit into the whole equation isn't going to jive with what we've got up here. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
In other words, they're going to be bred later, etc.
Yeah.
It's not.
Where I was at in Georgia, it was actually the dates lined up pretty close to what they do here as far as at least that first phase of the rut.
Really?
Jason, what do you think is peak estrus up there where you're at? I always kind of just in my mind, I have it being like a week to 10 days earlier than like what I've got down here, but which I think is about the 15th is.
I would say somewhere between. I was going to tell you between the 13th and the 18th.
So basically the same then.
Yeah, the one thing that I learned doing these shows with you guys is that as much as I felt like when I went to Missouri they were a week behind, it was really different conditions. Had I walked into the same conditions, in terms of the weather, I think that it's pretty likely that they would be the same. But it'll be impossible to tell until I go back again, which will be a while.
Go to your log book. I've been keeping logs for about 18, 20 years. And the 17th is the one day I had the most bucks tending does year in and year out. So I think it's somewhere give or take a few days from that. But
yeah, I mean, we got to be about there in terms of being done.
yeah, I tend to think it's a few days earlier than that, but for some reason that's when I've seen the most. So I mean, maybe not.
Yeah.
Owen, have you been out at all, doe hunting or doing anything, or just taking it easy?
I haven't been out. I've been shooting the recurve. I'd like to get out on a doe hunt, but I knew this was going to happen as soon as I tagged out. I was like, you watch what happens. We get past the 20th to see what Wolverine does. He's been running circles around this hornet's nest, stretching in front of the camera, front leg forward. And he's like, oh, yawning, like right here.
Mhm.
It's just crazy. Like I knew that was going to happen.
It never fails.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
I've been seeing an uptick on cameras. Like Big Mac hadn't been on camera for 10 days or so. And these last 3 or 4 nights, I've got a couple cameras on scrapes on some standing bean edges. He's been daylight the last few evenings. The 6x5's basically disappeared. I haven't seen him on camera, but quite a few bucks down the river farm, just that kind of, during that lockdown weren't necessarily on camera, but they're still up and around moving. I'll get their picture once a day now or so. I actually made a little hunt yesterday. I had to get back to the house to come check on the chickens and the ducks. So I made a little hunt in the urban zone, and I was like, there's no way we're going to sit. I went to this spot once earlier in the year, try to shoot doe, and didn't see a deer. And it's historically a good spot for me. And we were down to the last 20 minutes. I was like, no way I'm making 2 sits right here in this spot, not seeing any deer. It's just crazy. And then we had just an all-out chase, just blow through the place. It was four younger bucks. The oldest was probably at 3.5, but I don't think they could run any faster through the timber. I mean, they were just it was something to behold. She definitely was in heat. They were running sideways and front ways and back ways, and she was doing all good to get away from them. But so it's cool to see that. But that was my one sit in the last however many days. So
Yeah,
mean-
Mike, I feel like we did prove that it was worth hunting the lockdown period. We both tagged, so
That's right. We didn't get to hear your story of the wide eight, man. Maybe you can catch us up.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that was one of those we talked about on that podcast with Winky. I said, if I was smart, I'd just quit hunting these deer until I knew they weren't with a doe. And that's exactly the way that played out. We didn't go hunting that morning, and I got a picture of him that morning by himself. And I'm like, okay, he's off the doe. Let's go give him a try. And of course, then it's, where do you go? So A, I'm going to go to where I know he lives. And B, I want to go to the spot where I think I'll see the most does, or there's going to be does in front of us, So that's where we went, and we just picked the right spot was all it was, We hadn't been there 10 minutes. Here he comes. I see him walking down this trail through the timber. I was actually kind of shocked he was there that soon, which, I shouldn't be for that time of year. Even your most nocturnal bucks that time of year are probably going to be on their feet some of daylight. So nothing
Yeah.
should be shocking for those days, but I was surprised by it. You're like, whoa, there he is. So yeah, I mean, finally worked out. It seems surreal when you have so many unsuccessful hunts. Some years you have to go the whole year and don't kill one, and then all of a sudden it's just like it's meant to be on a given day.
Yep.
And I will say one thing I did notice about this buck, and I have several other mature bucks. We're talking 5, 6, 7-year-old, the most mature bucks. A lot of times I notice they will cut to catch the wind on this food plot. Maybe they didn't enter walking into the wind, basically this deer did in this case, but a lot of times maybe they didn't enter the field with, wind in their favor, but then they'll cut to the downwind side of that field and then walk that downwind edge. And that's exactly what he did. He kept angling toward me. And then when I thought about that, he was wind checking all that. I've seen him do that before, but it's worth noting. You might be able to strategize on that at some point.
Yeah, that's cool to think about that stuff.
Yep.
Knows.
So as we go into this next phase, I've never had the luxury because either I've been tagged out or I didn't have a place to go. But how is it in terms of any of your areas after the Army of Orange does what they do? Is there a significant change?
Well,
Yeah.
we're still a little ways from the Orange Army. I mean, at least a couple weeks away. But yeah, things change. Obviously, the pressure, and it depends on the area, how much here, anyways, how much deer driving and stuff goes around or goes on around you and all that. But if you don't have to deal with the pressure, obviously, food's going to be king because we're just getting to be that time of year.
Right.
I have properties where gun season really helps because a lot of deer get pushed in there and we have the food to draw them in. I have properties that get gun hunted and the deer kind of move off because of the pressure. So it really is pretty property and area specific in my experience there. And right now, like I said, we're still a couple weeks away from that gun pressure coming in. But I've taken a few hunts off lately, but when I have been out, I have been seeing a lot more feeding activity, a lot more does hitting the food sources early. Hopefully the bucks will eventually be there. My issue is that my hit list is so microscopic right now that I'm going after 1 or 2 bucks that aren't there. So that's my problem, but we're still seeing some mature deer, just not the ones that we want to see.
So is it fair to say that all of you are switching tactics somewhat from what you were even 3 days ago?
I will be for sure. It has so much to do with how much control you have going into late season, like Jared said. I mean,
Yeah.
it comes down to food, and I give up mornings when, early in the year and late in the year. I don't hunt mornings because I just feel like you could do more harm than good, although you could have a good morning hunt too, but I just don't like the, risk versus reward on that.
Yeah, I'm on the cusp of probably being done with mornings. I'll probably do it for a few more days. I'm planning on going out tomorrow morning to give it a shot. I have been seeing when I have hunted close to bedding, I've been seeing all day movement, like basically nonstop.
Yeah.
The hunts where I've been out closer to the feeding areas hunting the food, it hasn't been like that. It's been relatively late movement, but I've seen, just going off my hunts, not necessarily going off of the camera knowledge like you guys are talking about, but just off my hunts, I've seen really good all day, midday type movement.
Yeah, totally, Jared. I agree with that. You should have, 4 or 5 more days that could be really good that I wouldn't give up mornings either.
Mhm.
Yeah. Say, talking about the next 4 to 5 days versus late season. I mean, we still have, for Max anyway, if you've got some mornings to get out, you definitely can still catch them, and then, yeah, somewhere, Jason, I'm somewhere around Thanksgiving, usually like end of November, where either I'm burnt out or something, the morning movement's going down, and I start switching just to that afternoon, food source hunting.
Yeah, quite honestly, the mornings, although it was, one was the opener of gun, in here in Wisconsin here, and it was a bust. And then yesterday morning was just a complete turnaround. There was deer running everywhere, but I had that kind of morning, and the guy on the other side of the ridge didn't see anything. So I think it's just it always boils down to being in the right place, right time.
You just still might catch. So,
What do you think? What's the percentage like for just say our region here in Iowa? Grant and I were wondering, or even talking about, what is the percentage of does bred to non-bred right now? It's got to be a tiny, tiny number.
yeah. Are they actually still in estrus? I mean, some of the ones
Yeah.
estrus bred, they're going to recycle next month, but as far as that crescendo, decrescendo on the first cycle, yeah, I mean, we got to be, I don't know, what is it, November 22nd? So you got to be getting down to the last probably single digit percentages of does that might, yeah.
Of course, the other factor too is what's your buck to doe ratio. I don't think very many does in my area, go through estrus without getting bred. I'm got to be pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio. So, I think if they come in, they probably get bred,
Yeah.
I agree.
I kind of felt the same way too.
Well, there we've got that squared away. Max, what's been going right for you?
What's that, Jason?
I said, what's been going right for you?
My trail cameras are in great places.
Those mount well.
Yeah.
Greens will love you.
Yeah, it's that farm that it's kind of wild. All the farms that did have decent activity have kind of dried up, especially mornings. Except for this one farm that I've been kind of almost hunting that farm exclusively when I can the last week or so, and that one I can't hunt. We had west winds the last couple of days that I just can't really, I don't feel that I can get in there on that. So tomorrow it goes back to south to a southerly wind where I can hunt in there. So I plan on, I'm going to try to get out. I'm going to try to get out the next 3 mornings or the next 3 days as much as I can. I almost feel like seeing what I've seen at least on camera. I contemplated, I got some work I need to get done tomorrow. I contemplated waiting since I've been seeing so much 10-2 movement. I've been contemplating getting up and just getting some work done and then shooting in there. I don't know. It just seems like tougher. It's risky. I feel like that kind of strategy if you're going into places with deer, because they're going to be back in there already.
Here's a question for you guys. What as we're talking about like getting back to food, this is a little bit different than like late season. Once we like hit late muzzy and late December type of time frame, but like right now for the next week to 2 weeks, when we still have a little bit of warmer weather patterns mixed in, what do you guys like for specific food source? Are you still thinking grains? Do you like greens this time of year? What's everyone's experience?
I'll go. I would. I think the answer honestly depends. Depends on the weather. If it's warm, I'm gonna sit green every time. Especially if it's been warm for 2 or 3 days. I feel like it just to what extent it rejuvenates itself. It just seems like it gets real palatable for them, especially if we've got, 40s and 50s, like 2 or 3 days in a row. It's money. And in my experience, if it is, if it is even, semi warm for that time of year, I believe that they'll always try to hit clover if it's on their way.
Hmm.
They'll go a little out of their way for it, but not a long way.
Yeah, that's the same criteria I use too, Jason. I decide on based on the temperature, but if I know there's a doe group using a particular field, regardless of what it is, that's where I want to be, this time of year. I still want to be where the does are at. So, I mean, that might trump exactly where I set based on temperature.
Yeah, what I can tell you, I've been sitting clover a decent amount just because it's been the most has the highest visibility for a spot that I'm hunting. It just happens to be a big opening planted clover, and the deer have been in there all day long and feeding hard in it. But tonight I set a turnip plot tonight, and I could see beans a few hundred yards away, standing beans, and not a single deer came into the turnips, and there's clover around the perimeter. Not a single deer came into the greens, and the beans were filled up pretty much, the standing beans. So, and tonight was a good example of what we were just talking about. It was cold tonight. I mean, the wind was starting to switch to southerly, but man, it was had a bite to it. It was cold tonight, and every single deer was in the beans. There wasn't a single thing in the greens.
We sat on a bean field that it is cut, but it has like a decent amount of beans still in it, and then cut corn past it, and they hung out. The deer that we did see, they hung out in the beans for a while, and then I think they were headed to the corn, but they were in no rush for sure. I mean, we watched the same group feeding those standing beans for. I mean, I think we debated hunting on the ground or getting in a tree, and then we didn't make our mind. It was way late. I mean, we probably only were hung at just barely after 3:00, and within 5 minutes there was deer out. I mean, they put the feed bag on early this afternoon for sure. It was freezing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I've done corn and beans side by side for a lot of years, just as trials, and then I just wanted to have the variety. And beans are always the one that I go to when it's cold. Like Jared said, anytime it gets cold or bitter cold, I like beans. But corn I think is good almost all the time. Warm, even if you were planned on hunting, clover or something green, if it was a little warmer, I still wouldn't shy away from corn. I mean, it always seems to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of it depends on, I mean, it's like knowing your farm and knowing your area and knowing the variety. And I mean, obviously, it's a luxury to have multiple types of food sources to be able to pick from, and those strategies play into that. But I always find it interesting. I mean, it even varies farm to farm, kind of which food you rotate by where they bed or this or that, but the general principles of when it's warmer green and when it's colder, the grains is what I stick with. And there is something to be said about those beans. I always try to convince myself, I'm like, maybe it's just because I can see into them better, or something. But boy, the deer hammer the beans. It's something.
Yeah,
No,
I definitely.
Go ahead, Jared.
I was going to say, I definitely agree with your point, Mike, about just it kind of depends on the farm. Like sometimes just whatever's closest to them is and that's what your data is going to be based off what you're seeing. So I definitely agree with that point. Sometimes we might overanalyze what they like better, and it just happens to be that's their first food source when they come out.
I don't get to do that a lot around here. I mean, it's either one or the other. And it's, so the deer, it's not like the deer have a choice to go. They might have to go in this particular area that I'm hunting. They have to go a long ways to get a different type of food. But when I hunted Missouri the last 3 years, I think muzzleloader late season, like the day after Christmas, we left, and it seemed like anytime you sat beans and it was bitter cold, it was just 10 times busier in those bean plots than it was in the corn plots. You get back and talk to everybody at camp, etc. And that was always the general rule of thumb.
Jason, how'd your night go? I know you were sitting almost all day for or the majority of the day for old Gumby.
Yeah. I ended up seeing him. And I could have shot him, but I didn't.
What?
Wow.
It was, if it would have been just a little ways across the line, it would have been one thing, but yeah, it was just too far. But no, I probably saw 60 deer in
Oh,
that came into
Wow.
this 10-acre plot.
Corn, right?
Yep. This year it's corn. It'll be corn next year too. That's really about it. I mean, just a ton of activity, and it was all, I would call it very close to late season activity. Like when the does come, like I'd just have my binoculars on a tripod or on a stick or whatever, and just be watching the hillside. That's probably 300 yards away, but you can just start to see it wiggle with deer as they're making their way down. So that's
Jason, do you start to think about doe management when you're seeing 60 in a sit in one field, or basically?
yeah,
I've
yeah.
never seen 60 deer in one field here.
We have we definitely have a problem. Not all of them were doe, but let's just say there was at least 20 does, in a given, even in that small of an area. We know that we've got too many. And last year, we have a 4-day holiday hunt, I think it's called. And it's right around Christmas, and it's doe only. And last year, I don't know how many we shot, but they're basically the one, the road that it was along was filled with blood trails from people, having their tailgates or truck beds full of deer. I think we shot 9 on a Saturday night, just on our piece. So, yeah, that'll happen.
Go Fest 2022.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mhm.
When do you typically run out of food when you're seeing that many deer, Jason?
We have, I think Jared and I have talked about this once. We have, I would say 26, 28 acres of food plots, just especially, for deer. And of that, I would say 17 is corn or beans at any time. So there's some pretty big destination food plots. I mean, there'd probably be somebody that would be willing to rent out that ground. But we just, we electric fence it off, because if we don't, there's just no point in planting anything.
And that's another good point about corn. In your situation, you're getting 3 times the food versus beans, roughly probably 150 bushel versus maybe 40 or 50.
Yeah. Yep.
So are they picked over before end of season, or you got it out through February, March? I mean, that's a good amount of food, but with that amount of deer.
Yeah. Between the two fields, they have always got to the middle of February, start of February.
Okay.
And actually, this last year it was unusually cold, particularly at the time that they were shutting, which would have been late February, early March. It was super cold, and on the property that we hunt, there's a lot of white pine, row pine, and that provides a ton of thermal cover. And we just had a great year shed hunting, because the thermal cover was just adjacent to the food, and they were in it constantly.
I've already got that marked on my calendar, Jason.
Yeah.
Come on up. It'll be fun.
Max, what are your plans in the morning?
When I go, I don't know where I'm sitting, but I know what farm I'll be on for sure. I'm trying to decide if it's hard on me to just sit that midday. The weather I really feel like played into these last 2 days, that midday spark. I mean, I don't even know if it got to 40 degrees today, so I have a hard time believing. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. Do you think we'll keep seeing that midday, or is it a flurry as a result of weather?
Tomorrow morning, it's still gonna be pretty cool tomorrow morning. It's really not gonna warm up until afternoon and then into the following day, Wednesday. So hopefully tomorrow is still pretty solid.
If you're going to finish strong, Max, the next 4 or 5 days would be the days to be out there, in my opinion, before these bucks kind of go underground again and are just resting, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of kills me too is that the time's ticking. But what Jason, what you had asked about how stuff changes, Grant and I are probably in a pretty similar situation to a lot of people, especially guys that hunt, maybe public or just permission ground. We don't have any standing beans or corn. We have just two small, almost poor man style plots in all the farms we hunt. So our hunt really takes a very drastic swing. I mean, we have one farm that I can think of right now that actually has, some bigger cut cornfields or something that might be somewhat of a destination, but we're gonna struggle. That's why I've put so much pressure on myself these last couple of weeks on at least trying giving it my best shot at punching one tag, because that second tag or that late season, it's pretty tough. I mean, I've hunted public the last 2 years a little bit, and that stuff gets hit pretty dang hard here in the shotgun seasons, and it's tough. I'm definitely gonna. I fully expect I'll still give it a shot, but I fully expect to struggle. Grant and I have talked about it a lot. I mean, it's one of those things where the perks of having leased ground or private ground, it's nice to be able to put that kind of stuff, to be able to have that kind of security and at least the food. I mean, the pressure is something you might not be able to have an effect on, but the food makes a big difference. I mean, we
For sure.
found,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in a year on a couple 100 acres of stuff, I mean, we might find a couple of sheds. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I almost would not want the really cold temperature that we had last year just to hold some of our deer. They seemed to bug out of all of our farms last year when it got real cold.
I don't know if past experience is any indicator, Max, but I've shot some of my best bucks from the 24th to the 27th, and none of those have been on food. It's always been in a travel corridor. They were creek crossing or whatever. So
that's where I'm putting in the time in for sure. I was in a beautiful spot this morning. I was really shocked to have only seen that one deer. It seemed to be hot across the road from where I was sitting. I just couldn't be in there. So I'm going to put the next couple, at least until Thanksgiving, with some stuff that afternoon. I'll take family stuff or whatever, take me out of the woods, but I'm going to try to log some good hours.
Awesome. I think that's a solid plan.
Yeah. And I think late, this, Max, but I mean, there are some places in Iowa. I mean, public,
Yeah.
the DNR puts food plots in that I think if you do some good scouting, and figure out which ones are hot and, all the deer haven't been pushed out of them, you guys can get on some deer late season too.
Yeah. It's definitely possible. It's just, it's a little bit tougher. So that's why my highest odds, at least, especially these deer that we follow through October and all that, some of these homebody or deer that we get consistently on camera, our best time for sure is to kill them that October, November timeframe. Not to say that they're not still in the area.
Yeah.
Definitely something to work toward too.
Oh,
I want to get all the next few days.
And what are your thoughts on in terms of basically what I think I just heard you tell Max is he should be in the woods until Thursday, Friday in the morning. Do you think that changes when you apply as much pressure as a gun season does?
Well, certainly, I don't think anything changes up deer movement, especially daylight movement, like gun pressure, heavy gun pressure. So that can definitely change it, and every situation is a little bit different. So those cameras will help them out a lot. In that case, if they're still seeing them on camera, then I would definitely be in there. But it comes a point when these bucks are just going to lay down regardless of that. I mean, they've had enough and they're ready to rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I had no plans to be out in the morning. You were making me feel bad.
I'm from Southwest Michigan, so you want to see them flip a switch, and November 15th.
Right.
November 16th, you don't see a squirrel even.
Right. Hey, it used to be that way here, but with people, wanting to shoot quality deer, it's changed. And some people hate it because things just aren't as busy. There's not a herd of 50 deer that's been across 3 counties, and gotten exponentially bigger at the county line every time. Because it's not like that anymore. You do see a lot more early morning or mid morning activity. Whereas before it was a flurry for the first 6 hours of just complete and utter chaos, shots everywhere, deer running everywhere, mayhem. It was fun. I mean, but it was a family deal. It was just a different deal. And then I mean, late season bow hunting was like something you did if you wanted to, I don't know, watch paint dry. It was horrible.
Yeah. Oh, and do you have gun season planned? I know you try to take some does, or does Joe or anybody have a tag or anything that you'll be out in the shotgun seasons?
Yeah, I'll probably be first shotgun. I'll probably take somebody hunting, and then I'm hoping my dad's here for second gun. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I know it'd probably be our last hunt, so it'll be a special one, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gun season's a good time to get together with people and do it as a team sport rather than an individual one. I think that's one cool thing about gun hunting, but we could be on that subject forever.
Yeah, I can get everybody involved.
Right. Anybody have anything else? Oh, I do. The Unabomber's dead. He got shot last night
Oh, no kidding.
by a
I did not know that.
270 bullet. Yeah, the 13-year-old neighbor girl. So
Okay.
very super
Good for
cool.
her.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, what a great deer to shoot for your first one, and literally she was on our 7 acre, I think it's 5 acres actually, corn plot, and she shot it real close to shooting light. So he wasn't coming out until the last possible second either. But boy, he's a giant.
Did you get to see him? Like put your hands on him?
Yeah, that's her dad is one of my lease partners.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's cool.
and then Jared, I had sent you a couple videos or pictures of that big, huge 10-pointer we had.
Hmm.
He's dead too. The neighbors got him. And there'll be other sad stories as we go along the rest of the week. God, I bought an extra box of Kleenex.
Therein lies the problem with late season. What do you have left to hunt, you know?
Well, again, in the area that I'm at is certainly an anomaly for Wisconsin, or at least this part of Wisconsin, when you generally speaking have 40 and 80 and maybe sometimes at most 160 acres of actual hunting land, and I just happen to be in an odd area that is got I don't know how many contiguous acres of timber there are, minus the roads, and then put in some federal land and some refuge and some stuff like that. Those state parks that are close to us certainly save a lot of deer. We've got John Muir State Park and the Fox River. There's a refuge on there, so there's no hunting there. So there's some stuff that plays into late season good around my specific area, but at Wisconsin as a whole, forget it.
Yeah, the only person I know that has better late
Pick
season
up a
hunting
sport.
is Jared. He'll be after like a 600-inch deer in his ghillie suit come January.
Yeah. I wish I could bank on that. No, I am going all in tomorrow morning. I think it's that time of year that you just get aggressive. I'm gonna go in there, and the only guarantee is I'm gonna blow some deer out. I'm gonna go early and hope I don't blow out the one deer that I want to kill. But there's just so many deer in there that I guarantee I'll mess some up. But I think I've convinced myself we're at the point where it's time to do that. If nothing else seems to be working, up in the fringes isn't working, I'm gonna dive in tomorrow morning. So we'll see how that goes.
Are you
Can't wait to hear about
Are you in a tree stand?
It'll be a tree stand.
Tree stand.
Good old pine tree.
Nothing's changed.
Eight
Pine trees,
What a
swirling winds.
Yeah.
It'll be a thermal hunt.
Sweet. I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Is there
Yeah.
more to the story?
Of what?
The pine tree?
Pine tree?
Yeah.
No, I hunt. Oh,
Anytime you film Jared at all, you're just covered in sap.
One climbing
That's
stick
where I
with
thought
kinda
this was
getting
going to
up
go.
18 feet.
wear,
One stick.
wear your gloves if you don't want to be covered in sand.
Yeah.
One of my stands is in a pine tree like that, and I've got so much crap on some. It's sort of a early, like a October 15th through to October 30th kind of stand, so you're not in real heavy clothes, so you're wearing that mid-weight stuff, and it's not what I'm wearing right now, and it's nice to not have sap all over it.
Good cover scent. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
No, I love them because you don't have to carry sticks in. There's a million branches to just climb up. It's one less thing to carry in, and you also got to cut a million branches to get
Right.
shooting lanes. But
Well, it looked like a great
you don't have
hide.
to have sticks.
Yeah.
It
Just
looked like
let
a
me
great
in there.
hide to start, and
I'll get you some shooting lanes going. I want 360-degree shooting lanes on those farms.
Max comes and hunts, and he's the only one that I know that can make a pine tree, turn a pine tree into a telephone pole. He'll cut every branch that is on.
If I'm coming to doe hunt your farm,
First of
and
all,
there's a doe in bow range, she's getting shot at. I'm not taking nothing for an answer. I'm cutting every branch that needs to be cut so that arrows can be launched.
That's the same issue I have with the cedar trees. When you get done trimming it out, like you said, Jared, it's just a telephone pole.
I walked up to one that I hadn't seen in a long time, but I knew Max had hunted there, and I couldn't stop laughing when I looked at that tree as I was driving by it. There's a couple little vegetation or little foliage at the top, and that was it. It was just
It's like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree.
I had this pine tree that I was just talking about. It was perfect when it was just me and I was self-filming, and now I frequently have a cameraman, and so now the whole center part of the tree is just completely bare. Like, I'm sure no deer is going to pick us off out of it, but boy, that sure was a nice back cover when I was there alone.
yeah.
But maybe we'll get lucky and they won't look at us. All right. Anything else? So, Jared, you're out in the morning. Owen, you're not.
Nope.
Max, Mike, you're saving lives or something?
back in the OR, man. I'm catching up from taking time off the last 3 weeks. So
Putting
I
all those
think
people on hold.
yeah, 10 hours operating today, and I've got another full clinic and multiple surgeries, and so we'll be starting early. Thinking about you guys, wishing you luck.
I'm not doing anything but sitting right here working. Tomorrow's going to be a rough day weather-wise here.
The Chubbs hunt is live now, so everybody go watch that.
What's that?
I said the Chubbs hunt is live now, so everybody go.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if no,
That was really fun to watch.
Yeah, that was phenomenal.
really good. Anything else coming up that you want to tell anybody about, Jared? Anybody else?
I don't think so. We have a pretty stellar lineup of shows coming up though, starting this week with Chubbs, and next couple of weeks we have some really cool hunts and story bucks and all that. So hopefully we can keep adding to it, and we'll have a string of good shows from here on out. But for sure, the next 2 to 3 weeks will be really, really strong shows. So look forward to that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving if we don't talk before then.
Yeah. Same to you guys.
Same to you.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
Nice shot.
We're out.